Well, my dad was a big outdoorsman. He sold insurance, but he had the job where he could do outdoors. And big fisherman. Always had a bass boat. Kind of grew up in a bass boat, and his bass boats were back in the day. They were pretty fast, and you go to the lake and pretty cool. And I started driving a boat when I was probably 12, and you could race, jet boats. And around here's a lot of jet boats. Used to be, not anymore, but used to be a lot of jet boats. And there's lakes. Oklahoma's got lakes everywhere, and there's not a lake 30 minutes from here. We go out there, and you could outrun a jet boat and a bass boat. So we had a lot of fun with that over the years, just playing around. I was like, this is kind of cool, kind of race, not racing, but racing. And then when I uh, got a job, I'm a pipeline welder. We went to California, worked in a plant, and boats were huge out there, like fast boats, and got to watch some really fast boats, and thought, man, this is kind of cool, the way these boats run. And then we had come back to Oklahoma, and I found one that was tore apart, but I knew what it was from being in California. So bought the boat, repainted the boat, rigged the boat, and played around with the boat for 8 years before I actually raced it. We just played around at the lake and hot rodded and raced other boats. And then in '98, we went to a Southern Drag Boat Association, just got in a river racer class. And of course, I got my butt handed to me on the first time. I lost first round, and I thought, man, I had fun. I thought, this is kind of cool. Well, we went to the next race, and that's what goofed it all up. I won it. So once you won it, you're hooked, and in 2000, I built a capsule pro boat. I built a top alcohol flat, and first year we didn't do any good. I had that Chevrolet in it, and I had got friends with Ronnie and Jackie Stidham, who were funny car racers. That's actually the car sitting behind me. That's where I got it from. That was Jackie Stidham's car. At the end of 2000, he's like, if you're really going to do this, you really need to buy a Hemi. This Chevrolet just won't get it done. He said, Brad Anderson's making a head that's a pretty good head, and you can build it. So I bought a motor part of it from Vern Moats, and bought part of it from Gasparelli's in California. And then in '02, I reset the world record, ET record, and won the world championship. And the ET record hadn't been broken in 10 years. And then in '03, we won it again and broke the world record again. And then in '04, I sold that boat because of just financial. I just kind of run out of money, and drove a boat for a guy named Dave Ferguson at the end of '04 and '05. And then in '06, I built another boat and won 2 more SDBA championships with it in '06 and '07. And so that was my hook. It was from the boats. And then in '07, Morgan was sophomore in high school, right? Yeah, she would have been a sophomore in high school. She was big in softball. So I kind of decided, I was like, we kind of need to do this softball deal. Let's just quit doing motorsports for a while. So in '07, '08, and '09, we just pretty much chased her around watching softball. And then my younger daughter, she was real big in dance. So 10 and 11, we did that. And in it was actually in 2013, Jackie Stidham called me, and he's like, I got a car over here, I need you to come look at it. So I go to his shop, and his funny car, which he had sold in '07, but he had bought it back. And it was just a roller, and he's like, I thought I was going to put this together, but he said, I really think you ought to put it together. He said, you ought to just build it as an altered and run it as an altered. He said, that OFA deal is a great deal. He's great people. And so you can go down there and play around and have a lot of fun. Not cost you a fortune. So anyway, we did that, and I come home and told my wife, I said, "What do you think about buying a car?" She's like, "You want to buy a car? Buy a car." Okay. So we did. From 13, we put that car together and run with the OFAA. Had a lot of fun with them. Got Rookie of the Year the first year, and won a race or two, and we had a lot of fun. Always placed good in the points, and never won it, but we got real close. And Chris come up with this Chaos deal, and I always wanted to run the Chaos. I mean, not that, but funny car. I was like, I always wanted to run a funny car. And we had this body, we just never had to put it on the car. And so in 18, we had that body wrapped, and we go, and then from then on, it just funny car. I mean, that's where it's at.
Ken Singleton's role in the evolution of Funny Car Chaos can only be described as pivotal, and I say that for this reason. He missed the first race. Now, a few weeks before the inaugural Chaos race, he was racing his Outlaw Fuel Altered against Nick Polson in the final at the San Antonio race. Ken actually won that race, and I don't know that Ken won a whole lot of Outlaw Fuel Altered Association races, but he did win the last one he ever raced in. And the next month or two, the first Funny Car Chaos took place. And I think Ken already had the body for the funny car, but they hadn't put it together. So he missed that September 2017 race, but he was excited about racing it in 2018. They attended 3 of the 4 races that we had that year. They did not tow to Havana, Illinois. But in 9 rounds of eliminations, they were undefeated. And so he set the standard very early that he's taken it seriously. And if you ever expect to get a win in Funny Car Chaos, you're going to have to get around the high-risk Monte Carlo, because Ken was coming for keeps.
Hey everybody, we're here at Funny Car Chaos 5.0. This is back to the original spot, and we're here with the guy that's won not 1, but 2 of these races. This is Ken Singleton from Oklahoma. Ken, welcome back to Funny Car Chaos.
It's good to be here. We're looking forward to maybe repeating again what we've done. So.
I'll tell you what, this format featuring any kind of car, alcohol or nitro, it's worked out well for you so far. Tell us what you got planned for this weekend.
Well, we run here as an altered. This track's always a really good racetrack, and there's a lot of good cars, so we're going to have our A game. I'm thinking there's going to be at least 5 cars here that probably can run in the 70s, low 80s, so we're going to have to, sure enough, make our car run it. So.
Tell the fans about Funny Car Chaos, what it is that appeals to you about the format of Chaos.
Well, funny cars is one of them things I've always wanted to run. Just never had the opportunity to run it. And with Chaos, it's made that window of opportunity, and it's like a bucket list thing of mine. And we're all about it. We'll run all of them next year is our plan. So, but the funny car, it's just cool. I mean, it's just a cool deal. Yeah, we won 3. There you go. That year was a battle. You had the American Outlaw, that, and Brandon Lewis that year was he was running, I mean, stout. And it was a battle all year. I mean, several cars were running pretty stout. And to end up at the end of the year, I mean, actually at North Star, it was actually like in the semis before we knew that we were going to win it. And we ended up winning North Star. We won the last race. But, I mean, we were in the semis, and it still wasn't for sure that we had it done. That's how close it was. And then when we won, they're like, yeah, you won the championship. That's a pretty tough deal, you know, when you run that hard all year. And honestly, those are the ones that are gratifying, I guess. I mean, that was a lot of work. I mean, you don't want them handed to you.
Right.
They're not any fun if you got them handed to you. You want to work hard at it. I mean, it's something you really want to struggle to get.
On behalf of the Texas barbecue sauce, great job, dude. Great job, team.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Ken.
Thanks, John.
You're welcome.
Here's another $5,000 on top of that.
Yeah.
Ken Singleton did not care how big a gun you had in the other lane. He was going to go A to B, and most of the time you were going to have to beat him. Few people ever did.
Yeah, Ken's presence at Funny Car Chaos was great for, and still is great for the Funny Car Chaos brand. People like seeing fast race cars and seeing track records get broken and seeing 200 miles an hour, and some of these tracks had never seen any of those. Fans were definitely, as he would continue to win and build a reputation for himself as a high-risk car, fans were definitely gravitating towards him. I think that I remember watching them. We did the first ever warm-up chaos at MoCan. I think it was 2018 or 19, and I was standing in his pit, and when people were buying the shirts, and his mother was out there selling T-shirts and passing out hero cards, and the presence was there. You could tell, people did come to watch Ken Singleton run and to see how fast he could go, and they knew from the year before, like that's the guy. That's the guy with the target on his back. That's the guy that's going to run 200. That's the guy that's going to be low qualifier. Can anybody stop him? We don't know. Wait and see.
2020. What a crazy year for the entire world. But Ken Singleton does come away with another championship. What do you remember from the COVID year in Chaos? Because Chaos somehow figured out a way to do some actual running and competing and drag racing, whether it was under the radar or selling a bunch of crew tickets more than ever has been sold at a drag strip. But somehow racing got in, and you still earned a championship.
20 was a weird year. We raced at Eddyville without a crowd. That was not fun. I mean, the crowd's the reason you're there, really. I was glad we was racing. But we were in Lufkin when all that, like when it fell apart was the weekend we were at Lufkin. That was the weekend they canceled Gainesville in the NHRA. Same exact weekend. And but we were there, and Chris said, we're going to run it. And I remember we were at the Cracker Barrel that morning eating breakfast, and that's what everybody was talking about. The NBA had shut down, and NHRA was shutting down, and what are we going to do, And Chris, he kind of said, we're going to figure out a way to battle through this, and we ended up doing it. We had run Lufkin, and then we went to Eddyville, and I'm not getting my dates right, but that was a bad year for me. I had a real good friend of mine that was on my crew that died from COVID, Mike Boyce. On July 4th. He caught it on July 4th, and a week later he's gone. But,
My daddy died.
Yeah, my father-in-law passed away. COVID hit us hard.
The driving career, you end 2020, you're champion once again, two-time champion. Chaos is growing, it's becoming more popular, your notoriety is growing. Did you have a sense that at that point the target's on you, the bullseye is on your back, you are the standard and everybody wants to beat you?
Well, to some degree, but I don't think this is it's not as cutthroat as the NHRA. But no, I'm sure, because I would. I mean, if I was the one that wasn't beating, say Kirk was winning it, I guarantee you I'm working night and day until I figure out how to beat him. But most of that just drove me harder. I mean, I knew they were trying to beat me, and I'm like, well, that just makes me try harder. I want to be able to still stay on top.
Ken's team, you absolutely could tell that they do their homework and that they put the hours in outside of the track. A lot of their work was done at home. That they don't show up at the track and unload the car and start pulling sleeves and changing pistons. That stuff was already done. They've analyzed the parts. They've looked at the numbers. They've logged their data. They've studied and studied and studied. And you could, and I knew that that's what was going on. But it proved itself. Every time they pulled into the track, the rig was ready to go, the car was ready to go, and off the trailer, that car hauled ass.
Consistency wins drag racing, and we're pretty consistent. That's the one thing I do. We are pretty consistent. So, but this weekend I'm thinking we need to be a little more consistently fast. So, but we're going to do our normal deal, and hopefully we get a break and we can maybe end up in the winner's circle.
Congratulations, buddy. That's the quickest he's gone. Quickest and fastest. That's his first 360.
A sense, I gather from having other conversations with you, that, yeah, let's give him someone to run with. And you and your brothers come in, and you all definitely do that first year right out of the bat and give him a good run for his money.
Yeah, we already had pretty decent setups to run what we'll call marginal tracks. And it was just a ball racing that man, because he had a fast car. It was just as fast as ours. And at times he was faster than ours. And it was vice versa the whole time. And that's what made it really fun. And I could tell after a lot of the races with Ken, he was enjoying it too, because he got to race somebody that was equal to him on power, attrition, tune-ups. I mean, so, and it wasn't like I'm knocking the fuel cars. It's just they have a problem with attrition. And so it was extremely enjoyable running him and meeting his family. But yeah, I mean, that first year we got into it, I had more fun then than I did a lot of years of racing, and that was really worth the change right there and then.
You can't ask for a better experience than having a bad to the bone team come in and say, I'm going to knock the champ off their perch, and give it everything they had to do it. And man, the racing was just out of this world. One would get one week, one would get the other the next week. And, you know, the caliber of those two teams duking it out, and it's not like there weren't other good teams. I mean, this series is filled with great teams, but those two separated themselves early on, and so it kind of became a who's going to win? Is it going to be Ken or is it going to be Kirk?
This rivalry between yourself and Kirk Williams and that Williams gang. And, you know, I mean, I even think back to when I had you on the show and we talked about the accident. It was kind of the first time you on air talking about it. I mean, the line is kick Kirk Williams' ass. And to continue to do that. And
that still applies.
Right.
Well, the only reason why that's that way is because I respect him that much. Him and his crew, I mean, he's stout. I mean, you outrun him, you did something. I mean, that's one reason why I do that, is it's not really a rivalry as much as he's just the guy that you got to beat. I mean, he's the guy that's always up there. If you watch, he's an 04 light guy. I mean, he always cuts like 04 lights. So you got to be on your game there, and then your car better be fast or you're going to get beat.
Your last championship, you driving 2021, they probably pushed you harder than you had ever been pushed. That year, what was that year like competitive-wise, going right down the wire from what I can understand looking back on things, and you picking up your third straight championship and doing it in a way, in a fashion that, yes, you won it, but you earned it for sure with Williams competing as tough as they do.
Well, you know, when we left Odessa in 21, we got rained out in the final. And Kirk was running stout, and we were running stout. And when we left there and went to Eddyville, I thought this is going to be a rough deal. You know, we're going to go to Eddyville. We got to run Kirk for the final. And sure enough, I red lit. I outrun him, but I red lit. So Kirk won Odessa in Eddyville, and then we run Eddyville, and we make it to the final, and I'm late, and he beats me. And I you talk about being destroyed. I mean, get beat twice in the same day. You know, I told her, I was like, I've never been beat twice in the same day. I said, it's terrible. But, you know, we kind of, you know, my wife, she's like, you gotta hold your head up. She said, you run good. And it's just one of them days. Kirk's day, and then did we go to Wichita next? I think we went to Wichita. And Kirk stumbled. You know, he went out first round. He went out first round. Mary Reap beat him. And that was a big deal, because we gained a lot of points at Wichita.
It was at Wichita. I mean, the points battle was just going back and forth the whole year. And we got into Wichita, and the car ran decent one time. And the rest of the time, we couldn't get the car to go 30 feet. Wouldn't go 30 feet. And no matter what we'd done, we couldn't get it to calm down. We just kept backing it up. And we had to race Mary Reap first round. Boom, went out and it knocked the tire off, and it was over. And right then and there, I thought, we've lost this thing. We ain't going to be able to, we won't have a chance at it now. But we got into San Antonio, and lo and behold, we found out if Ken was to go out first round there, we had a chance at this thing. Well, he didn't. He went out second round. But still, the car went out there and performed real well. So, I mean, we still had a lot of fun, and I wouldn't, you know what, I wouldn't change a thing. Even though, you know, Wichita didn't turn out to be the race we wanted it to be, I still had so much fun. And, you know, I will say something, that race, Ken's mom, Jeannie, came over to me, and I was in the trailer, we was doing something, and she came up to me and she put her hand around, her arm around me, and said, I'm so sorry you lost. I turned and looked at her and smiled. I says, you ain't got to be sorry. I said, that's just the way racing goes. She goes, no, I really am. I wanted you to race Kendall in the final because I know how you two are. And she goes, I'm just really sorry we ain't going to get to see that. My heart just melted there because this woman was so genuine with what she was saying, and she is such a superwoman. So that right there was a prime instance of the people who are in Funny Car Chaos.
You know, just to give you a hint, I've got some stats on the high risk team. They didn't make the first race, and in the first from 18, 19, 20, 21, so 4 years, they ran in 27 of the 29 total races. They missed Central Illinois in 18, and they missed the first one at North Star. But 27 races, they made the final 20 times. Their record in the final round was 13-7. So, you know, you start doing your batting averages and all those kinds, and it winds up to be over 70% in final rounds. And if you went round by round, every time they went down the racetrack, it was an 817 batting average. They were, let's see if I can find that there. 71 elimination rounds. They won 58 of those rounds. That's an 817 batting average. So more than 8 times out of every 10, the win light came on for high risk.
In a boat, you always had that sense that, man, something could go bad. And I never had that in a car. I never felt that, you know, that it could. And then I had something go really bad. But I never had that feeling on the starting line that, you know, this could really go bad. And in a boat, I felt that a lot. And in the car, honestly, I'd never dreamed about a fire. I just never dreamed that it could catch on fire like that. You always think you're going to hit a wall, or, you know, you like, well, brush a wall or do something goofy, but doing what it did, I don't know.
Well, we were all shocked about what happened with that car, and that car in particular. Where were you? You're going in as 3-time Funny Car Chaos champion, set up ready to run for a 4th in a row. 2022, what all had you done in the off season? I mean, we know the story, but it seemed like everything was overhauled.
Yeah, it was a brand new car. I mean, brand new. The only thing wasn't new was the motor, but the motor was the latest, greatest thing out. New chassis, new body, new everything. We worked all winter long, and I mean, we worked right up until we loaded it to go down there. I mean, it was we didn't get the body until 2 weeks before we went. We hadn't put any tin in it, didn't have a tree in it, just bare body, and worked night and day trying to put this thing together. And it if I had to back up, I wouldn't have done that. I mean, we would have just said, we're going to run this one. You know, we'll get it when we get it. But we trying to debut it, you know, in us, and did have a new screw. We bought a C rotor screw to put on it, and then what really fueled that is the test hit before the fire. It ran the fastest I ever went. It went at 61 at 218. Like, this thing's hauling, you know, but you know, it just wasn't meant to be.
I talked to Ken through the wintertime leading up to Dallas, and he told me that they was building a new car, and he kind of giggled. He says, we're going to come out, we're going to give you a run for your money, so hang on. And I knew, he wasn't going to come half-handed either. So we got to the track, and me and him had talked a little bit here and there, and I watched some of his test runs, and he went out there and went a 360 at 216. And I thought, oh, Lord.
Yeah, we all knew when Ken pulled under that Texas Motorplex tower that Friday night, the weather was good, the sun was down. He had worked so hard, him and his team, to put that new car together. He knew it was going to take more to continue to be the champion as the competition was coming after him. And so the improvements they had made that offseason were drastic. Brand new car, brand new this, brand new that, brand new everything. Tested a little bit on Thursday before the Friday qualifying. That was it. And so you knew people are laying down numbers. They're laying down 360s and 370s, and you assume absolutely that Ken Singleton's going to go for number one. And so when that car rolls under the tower, it's a serious moment, and you can't wait to see how this team is going to perform, because you know they're going to lay one down, and you know they've done their homework, and you know they've brought everything they've got to the starting line, and without a fraction of a percentage of horsepower available that they're not going to use. And so we all expected something big.
Ken, he was up there ready to run, and I heard the car leave, and it made it through low gear, and I heard it make this 1-2 shift, and then I heard it pop. And I thought to myself, oh, geez, the supercharger come off and knock the panels out. And then I looked down the track, and I just seen this thing was ablaze. And I mean, it went ablaze so fast.
When the fire erupted, that car was hauling ass, and you knew immediately that it was going to be a big one, because those of us that have seen a bunch of that stuff over the years, you can tell when it's going to be bad. And so immediately you knew it was going to be bad.
And I ran back over to the car, or back to our truck, and got my stuff, and I ran out to the track because I seen him coming. I thought, well, if this car stops here, at least I'm going to be here to help him try and get out of that car. And by the time I got up to the wall, that car was it was in a raging inferno. And the fire people, they came up and they was putting it out. Of course, they had said they don't see no driver, there's no driver. And at that point, I was just distraught, because I thought, man, that poor man, he's not coming out of that thing.
And, I can replay that all night long in my head, and it's a horrible memory. And I was actually standing on the starting line not far from his daughter, and I remember looking at her, and we both kind of looked at each other, and you just feel like throwing up. You know it's not going to be good. There's no way this is going to be a positive outcome. There's just not a chance. And so watching that car just go down that track and fully involved like that, all you can hope for is that he's bailed out, by then, or at some point, which he did. but it was a big fire, and it was a high speed deal, and it was very, very hot, and the starting line was a tough place to be standing because you're helpless. You can't do nothing for him. You can't project yourself down there. You can't start spraying a fire extinguisher. You can't, everything's going. Everybody's doing what they're supposed to do, but you feel helpless because that's your buddy.
And we went back down, hooked the car up, went left. And I don't know, we got back to the pit area, and I mean, you could drop a pin in the pit area. I mean, just how it was. And I felt, my heart just sunk, because I'll never forget listening to Ken's daughter screaming and crying. I mean, I could hear her from where I was at on the track. And I felt so bad for Morgan and the rest of the family.
For you in the car, when did you know it was bad?
When it got on my side of the firewall, which was pretty instant, but I remember it. I mean, it was fixing the shift. I mean, we were fixing the shift, and it blew the head gasket. Well, I seen the fire blow out of the right side of the car, and I've blown a head gasket before. It's been a long time, but and then it blew the panels out of the blower, and it pretty big boom, and almost instantly fire went up the A pillar by the window. I mean, fire just run up that window, and I was like, well, how'd that get in here? And then I'm like, not really panicking yet. I was like, well, yeah, we got fire, but so I've let off, and I pulled chutes, and I haven't even killed it yet, which is kind of my normal deal. I'm not a big fan of just killing it.
And you thought you did fireballs.
And and I thought I hit the fireballs, and I didn't. And but then, within about 2 or 3 seconds, there's fire everywhere. Like the whole roof's on fire. And I was just like, this is crazy, and then I did start kind of panicking. I was like, I gotta get out of this car, and actually I kind of got messed up on how to get out of the car, because I climbed out of the car, and the car was still going up, probably still going 40 mile an hour, 60. I don't know how fast it's going, but the wind hit me when I came out of the top. The wind hit me, and I went, crap. Well, it's all on fire, but I reached down in and grabbed the brake handle, and it slid it sideways, and it run in the guardrail. And I'm like, you got to get out of this car. And I usually get out of the side. I roll off the side, but I didn't. I rolled off the back. And how I got out of that car, I really don't know, because between the wheelie bar and the parachute and the wall, how did I actually get out of that and not get tangled up in one of them? But I did. I got out of it. But it also smashed this hand. That's one reason my thumb's all jacked up, is I landed on it, I guess. That's what everybody's determined. That's why it was broke so bad, was I landed on the track, I guess on my hand. But it's just, and then you are freaking out because you're hurt. You're hurt really bad.
I remember walking back under the tower to go get my golf cart and mosey on down there, assuming that, he's probably dead. And that ride down the return road at the Motorplex is long, and my golf cart's slow. And I thought, oh my gosh, it felt like 4 years went by just driving down there. And when you get down to the scene and you see the car and you see the burned up stuff on the wall, and you just think, oh man, there's just no way, And then you come around the corner and you see Ken in the hospital, you see Ken in the ambulance. It's like, oh my gosh, he's alive, and he's still got eyeballs, and it's all. It was amazing to see just a human being sitting in the back of that ambulance talking to first responders, and his wife's there, and you think, wow, but that fire is a bad situation long term, and that the road ahead is going to be pretty rough, and that helicopter didn't take off for a long time, and that was a bad deal for me. I really thought that we were going to lose him for sure. And I remember just a lot of crying and a lot of I want to quit and why are we doing this, and this is stupid, and I'm hurting my friends, and I want to get out of this deal, and I don't want to be a part of it anymore. And those are all emotions that go through my head when something like that happens to one of my boys or girls.
That was an extremely emotional night because there just was not any word for the longest time, but there was the visual of that car is still on fire. And if he's in there, then it is it's an extremely sad ending to a great life story. Now, finding out later that he had gotten out of the car, thankfully, bailed off, and while the car was still trucking down the track at a fairly high rate of speed, people were looking at the car burn, and they're thinking, oh my gosh, can we get him out of there? And he walks up. Now he's burned, and it was rough, but instantly everyone was praying for him to have been out, for him to be okay. And if you're a person that believes in prayer, and a whole lot of our community does, all those prayers lifted up were certainly answered in a multitude of ways that night. But the competitors pulled out of the staging lanes like tonight is done, and all we were focusing on is Ken okay, and what can we do to help the family, and that was to a person. It's kind of a rough night, and it's kind of rough to even to go back there.
When I was sitting in the ambulance at the track, they wanted to knock me out to put a breathing machine in me, and I argued with them. I was like, "You're not gonna knock me out." And my wife, being the nurse, she's like, "You're gonna have to let them knock you out." And honestly, I didn't think I'd wake up. I thought, I'm done. I mean, they're gonna knock me out, and I'm gonna get to go to heaven.
Part of that though was because we'd lost Mike, and he'd been on a ventilator and had to be.
Yeah, I mean, I was scared to death of ventilator. Because Mike was on a ventilator when he died from COVID, and I could just see it. I was like, there ain't no way. I mean, there ain't no way I'm gonna live through this. And waking up in the hospital was a big deal. I was like, well, I'm still here. That's kind of crazy. I didn't think I was going to be.
The next day, racing still occurred. How different was it?
Yeah, the next day was tough. Obviously, we're soaking up as much information as we can from the team as they're sharing news and updates from doctors and such. Making it through the night, to me, was, when I woke up, you just think, okay, man, this is going to be the worst day of your life, and it wasn't. And he was alive, and he's doing okay, and yeah, there are problems that we're going to have to deal with, but prognosis is fair, and we may lose some fingers, and we may do this, and we may do that, but by God, he's here, and his heart's beating, and that's all that matters, And to see the crew and see Joe at the track the next day was just kind of crazy. I just didn't expect to even see them at all, or whatever. And so it was just like that hug was intense. It's like it's just like he's like a family member to all of us. And so racing the next day was hard to get motivated because you think, well, this could happen again today, but racing and finishing that race is, by God, sure what he wanted us to do. And so, we sure as hell weren't going to not race, and that's a characteristic that Ken's got that we knew he's going to get real mad if we don't finish this drag race. So we better get to it. And to see the family come out there and that really helped everybody out there to see Joe and get some hugs and get some info and just kind of take a deep breath and focus on finishing the race and get back to getting Ken better as fast as we could, helping however we can, helping the family or whatever we need to do. That was kind of the focus. The race becomes, all the races become secondary at that point. It's let's get Ken back on his feet and rock and roll.
But I couldn't see. I mean, my eyesight was bad, and you know, all of me hurt, but my hands didn't hurt that bad, but I knew they were burned really bad. And when I got there, they told me I was going to be there 8 months. They said, "You're going to be here 8 months." Like, there ain't no way. I can't be here 8 months. I ain't never been anywhere 8 months. I'm not going to be here 8 months. And altogether, I wasn't there 4.5 months. What I was there.
Between Parkland
and Baptist in the city.
You don't do anything slow.
No. But, you know, the first week or two, probably, I want to say the first 3 weeks, it's pretty brutal. I mean, the way they wash you, and they used to give me this drug. At Parkland, they give you a drug called ketamine, which is it's in the family of LSD. I mean, it's just a hallucinogenic. And I used to think there was cats in the room. You know, as I tell my wife, I said, "There's cats in here," and she's like, "There ain't no cats in here. You're in a hospital." I'm like, I don't care if I'm in a hospital. There's freaking cats in here. There's things running around. One night, I swore there was a skeleton hanging on the wall. I can't see, but I can see the skeleton. You know, I told her the next morning, I said, "Is there not a skeleton?" And she's like, "There ain't no skeleton over there." But they'd give you that ketamine. I found out later that it was when they're washing you and scrubbing you at the tank, you know, they'd take you this tank and they give you that drug. Well, it'd be so real. You'd like be in a concert, like with people I don't listen to, like Five Finger Death Punch. I mean, like crazy hard rock, and you're on stage with them, you know, and it was nuts. I mean, and then I found out why they were playing that stuff while they were working on me. And I was like, "You guys got to change your music. You're driving me crazy." I said, "I'm having these like crazy dreams about I'm doing things while you're working on me. I'm in another world, you know, playing with these rock bands and all that." I said, "You know, play some 38 Special or, you know, something a little bit lighter." So anyway, we got that worked out, and we got them change their Pandora channel, and things kind of calmed down. But all in all, I thank all of them, the nurses, and at both hospitals, they treated me, especially in the city. I had nurses that treated you like gold. I mean, they're really good people.
I don't know how long it was, a week or two after they brought him up out of because they induced him into a coma and then they brought him up out of it. It was a Wednesday. I was on my way home from work and the man called me. And I was just like, I mean, up on my phone, I'm looking at it, it's like, "Ken Singleton, what is it? This has got to be Joe." And I answered it. It was Ken. And I was just like, "Oh my God, Ken, how are you doing?" "Well, you know, I'm kind of burned up, but I'm doing all right." And I'm like, "Man, I damn near started tearing up. My eyes were welling up in the car, and I was just like, so glad to hear his voice." And so we talked for a few minutes and stuff, and you know, you could tell he was still pretty drugged up and stuff, because God only knows how much pain that poor man was in. But I just felt so good that he called and got to hear his voice.
It's kind of funny, the Williams come and pay you a visit.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, Kirk, to his brother, he's like, "Dude, you can't bring the man burnt ends." You know.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was awesome. Yeah, it brought me burnt ends.
What was it about the burnt ends and going to Ken? What was it? Barbecue-wise?
Oh, Lord. Jesus, help me on this one. So, my wife, we had been sending stuff to Joe and then to help him out through the times, and you know, and I think it was Tammy. My wife asked Tammy, "What's his favorite meal?" And I think she said, "Oh, he loves barbecue." Oh, so I told my wife, I says, "Hey, find a barbecue joint around him," and I said, "Let's get him some barbecue and send him up some desserts and stuff, and let him enjoy something. Let him enjoy a good meal." Okay. So, I don't know. A few hours later, go by, I call her, I says, "Hey, did you get everything sent?" "Yeah." I said, "Well, what'd you send?" She goes, Well, I sent ribs and some brisket and burnt ends. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? I says, oh, never mind, honey. Just, never mind. I says, I'm sure they enjoyed it. But inside, I'm thinking to myself, oh, Lord.
You know, I got some calls, and a lot of that was Mike Googer, but John Force called me, Matt Hagan called me. I can't remember all the people that called me. Matt Hagan called me several times. I mean, not just once. I'm going to try to see him at Ennis. We're going to try to go. And I've never met him in person. So, but Dale Worsham, pretty sure Dale called me.
Ron Capps called you.
Ron Capps did.
Schumacher called you.
Yeah, a lot. Everybody. It's crazy the amount of people that call me. But yeah, it was. All that's pretty cool. You know, that you got that many people that think about you enough to call.
What was your mind frame, your set of, I'm going to get out of the hospital and I'm going to get back to as close as I can to normal life? What was that thought process, and what would that look like in your mind at the time?
Well, I've kind of been that way about everything, you know, not just getting hurt, but then my dad, when I was in the 7th grade, he was burned really bad too. He was in the same burn unit, like 2 doors down from where I was. And Dad always had a positive attitude. I could tell it hurt, you know, but he's like, well, it's done and over, and there's nothing ahead but to go ahead. I mean, we got to get on with life, and we got to make life as good as we can. And he did. I mean, he still did everything he did after he got hurt. He still hunted and fished, and he broke all the rules too, you know. And I just had kind of made up my mind that I'm like, well, we're not going to let this beat us. I mean, just because I got hurt, we're not about to stop. I mean, and the first thing is I can't do what I normally do if I'm not working. I mean, I got to get back to work. And I always liked welding. I liked pipeline welding. I enjoyed it, and I'm not going to lie, it's a challenge. It was in the beginning. It is a challenge to do it, and it still drives me crazy this day. I can't run a grinder. You know, I have to have somebody run a grinder for me, and that's something we're going to overcome. Somehow we're going to eventually be able to run a grinder, but I haven't got that figured out yet. But the welding part I got down pretty good. I mean, I'm not probably as good as I was, but I'm close. I mean, I'm definitely close enough to do X-ray welds, but you just kind of got to have a, you know, and I've left this out, and it's something I can't leave out, but something that's big to me and something that matters is your faith. You know, if you can't depend on God, between my wife, my daughter, my brother, my whole family, but you gotta have faith in there. I mean, I've done a lot of praying, especially in the hospital. But I just always kind of like, we're going to get over this. We got to get back to. I mean, I never really thought I'd drive a car again, but I told Chris, I was still in the hospital. I said, I'm going to make it to Eddyville. And now I look back at pictures, and I was like, why did I go to Eddyville? I look terrible. But it was just a goal. I mean, I was like, I gotta get back, you know. That was probably my first goal, go to Eddyville.
It just, that Eddyville race when he came back, the first race back, was a big relief for me. And it's just like, it's like going to a circus without the elephants and the clowns. You know, you can't go to a funny car race without Ken Singleton. You can't go to a funny car cast race without Ken and his team. And so to have them back really filled the void, because those couple races there where he wasn't there anymore was very strange. And we were really glad to have him back.
in the Man O' War pits of Shane Lawson, and a familiar face, a face that we haven't seen in a while, but it's so good to see him back at the track, Ken Singleton. And Ken, it's got to feel even better for you. Can you describe it for us?
Oh yeah, it's cool being back at the track. This is the first time I've been back since the accident, and kind of feels at home. And always like Eddyville. Eddyville's a cool place, and trying to get an old hot rod to run.
So Ken, have you been able to really get any work in, or have people been pulling you away too much and saying they're so good to have you back?
There's been a lot of people definitely acting like they're happy I'm here, but we've got to work on the car a little bit, and these guys are working hard. We're going to get this car where we need it eventually.
Well, Ken, thank God. It's good to see you.
Thank you, man.
Ken's transformation from the day he got burned up to the day he came back to Eddyville in 2022 was amazing. A lot faster than we initially all were told it was going to take. That's truly based on, of course, the great care that he got, but it's about Ken. Ken wakes up ready to kick ass every day. Ken Singleton wakes up ready to kick ass. Whether it's racing, whether it's welding, whether it's family life, whether it's whatever, that man wakes up motivated to do the best he can, and he pushed through challenges that I can't relate to at all. But for him to be back at that direct strip in Eddyville, I mean, it brought tears to my eyes, and it's made the hair stand up on my arm when he pulled through the gate and I got to go park him. You know, it's like, wow, he's back. I can't believe this. You know, we thought we lost him. And to see him 4 months later, you know, in the physical condition that he was in, and back tuning a car and all of that was an amazing moment in the chaos, history of chaos, and my personal big time moment for me.
I'm very thankful. I praise God daily that I'm alive. I recommend everybody take as many cautions as possible. Don't get burned. Getting burned sucks. But one thing about it is I overcame it, got to go back to work, and I'm a pipeline welder. Got to do that, and I still get to play with funny cars. This weekend I'm playing with 3 of them, so my life's pretty good. It's not just the driving, it's the thought that has to go in to make it run. I mean, you're constant. I think about it every day, all day, every day. How to make a car go faster. Because every one of them can go faster. It's just a matter of how you turn the screws. And that's the part that, honestly, the driving part's awesome, but the mechanical side of it is the part that really gets me going. I mean, that's the part that was, so I did all my own motor work. We did everything. Me and my 5 guys, we did everything. I didn't hardly third party anything out. I mean, we did everything in house. And that part was something I was always really proud of, even down to the car itself. And I miss that. I miss not having my own car. But the next best thing is working on other people's cars.
Well, I was just glad to see him be back at the track. And I knew when he started helping Shane that with the old Man of War car, it was making progress, you know. So I knew it was going to be a formidable team. And then when they got the new car, and, you know, it takes time to work bugs out of a new car. And they had their struggles with it. And they raced them, it was in Mocan, I believe, in the final. And we was in the staging lane, and I was just sitting there talking to Ken, and I said something to him about, well, this is what you wanted, so here we go. And he just kind of smiled. So we got ready, we went. Of course, the outcome, we won. And I seen him later that night, and he goes, well, it wasn't the outcome I wanted, but he says, I got more. So I knew, you know. And then we got into State Capitol Raceway, and that car just simply performed very well. I mean, it went down the track every time. Each time it got a little faster, and then finally went a 69. So yeah, come next year, there's that car is going to be a tough car to beat.
Ken's win to close this season at Baton Rouge at the championship finals was unbelievable. As a crew chief, the win for him. The tuning this season has improved greatly, along with Shane's driving, and it finally all gelled, and everything worked great at that race. And that car's proven now that it's a contender every time it hits the track. But to see Ken smile and just know how much he enjoyed that moment, I enjoyed it thoroughly. I hope, I know that all the Chaos regulars and people in the Chaos family, it was a great moment. It's just one of those starting line moments that you won't forget is seeing that win live for Ken and for that team. And that was Ken's win. It's great for Shane and everybody else, but that was Ken's win.
State Capitol Raceway will go down in history as this man's first A-Field win as a tuner, the champ, Ken Singleton. You get Shane Lawson into victory lane.
Yeah, it's been a great day. Weather's been great. Crew done awesome. Shane's done a great job driving. It's just this is great. It's awesome. We been fighting all year, fighting with this new car, and we finally got it lined out. Actually, things started coming together at Mocan, and we're getting it. I can't wait for next year. We're going to be great.
You are going to be great, Ken. I can't help but think last year this was the second race of the year. You were not here because of your fire. Here we are. You're a winner. Full circle, man.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad the good Lord's made it where I can be here, and there's no other place I'd rather be.
Congratulations, Ken. The Man of War team that Shane Lawson pilots has done so to a final round. But this power plant and the mechanism that it is tuned by Ken Singleton. Ken Singleton, you are multi-time Funny Car Chaos champion driving. You now are a champion of this series as a tuner. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I will tell you that I think the tuner part, it's harder than doing my own car. When I was driving, I could feel the car, and now I depend on a driver to tell me what the car feels like. But we have a great team. Shane's a great driver, and it's been a pretty good year. So it's awesome. First championship I've ever done as a tuner. So.
Watching you here in the pits, I find it amazing. Championship has been secured, and yet one more win light for the win here of this event. Why have the drive that you have, and where does it come from? In a drive that, frankly, we could make a movie out of your story with everything that's happened in Chaos.
Yeah, but we got to try it one more time. We got one round, we'll have an awesome day. We had an awesome day right now, but one more would just put icing on the cake. So I don't know what drives me. I just love this stuff. It's fun to make them go fast, and it's my stomach's been turned up all day because I knew what this day was about. So it's good it's turned out right.
By the way, you beat Kirk Williams.
I did beat Kirk Williams, beat him twice.
How cool would it be to line up once again with Ken Singleton behind the wheel, y'all stage, send it? What would you say to him after that first pass in competition of someone that you competed against and all that he's been through as a friend and as a competitor at the top end?
What would I say to him? Wouldn't say nothing. I'd just hug the man and congratulate him. That's all I'd do. What more could you do? I mean, if that man ever was able to get back into that car, I would love to be the one that lined up with him and race. But yeah, that's all I'd do. I'd get out of the car and just hug the man, tell him congratulations.
The love that people have for that team and that family still shows through today. Everybody still calls him champ. Everybody knows what he did, and everybody is thankful, truly, for what they did to make this series what it is. And, you know, still, respect, respect, respect. Everybody wants to be a champion like Ken Singleton was, and that just doesn't mean wins and losses. That means character. And he has it.
There's just nothing like winning. I mean, winning's cool. When it all pays off, you know, that's essentially all the hard work, and you sit back and say, you know, that worked. You know, everything we did paid off.
Well, Ken, I can look on that funny car and I can see 3X, 3-time Funny Car Chaos World Champion. So you're definitely a winner in the funny car ranks. But I can see you sitting there. You're a winner in life. And that's even more important. And congratulations.
Well, thanks. Yeah. Well, I think we can all do that. I mean, that should be a goal. Try to win life.